This chapter includes mild nudity and themes of a society where women hold the positions of power and authority, and men are raised for hard labor or the military. This is Peter Adkison, and I'm here with Steve Conard. We co-direct the Chaldea series, and we are here to chat it up about this chapter while we play it in the background. We will be talking over the audio, so if you haven't watched Chapter 2 yet, we recommend you first watch the version without the commentary so that you can enjoy it without our yammering. Yes, Decision at Eriku. So this is our Sarva story. Well, I like this story a lot. I like this character a lot. It's the only script, the only character in our series where I wrote the first draft of the scripts. I didn't write drafts of the scripts for most of the stories, but I had a lot of fun writing this one.
On the day's coming events.
And you also came up with the naming convention for the chapters. People will notice that we have stylistic names for whoever the key character is. So for Sarva, it's Decision at Eriku. Yeah. And Decision is a military term.
Yep, and she is, and Sarva is a military general. So the idea with Sarva is that she's a warrior, but not like so much the hack and slash warrior, although she's certainly really tough in combat, but a really brilliant military tactician and general. And so, and she is in our story very soon, not in this episode, but in the very next episode, she's very quickly going to get thrown into the middle of a major conflict, and we'll see how smart she is.
Enter. Your mails are ready, Papa. Good.
Her mails, Peter.
Sarva's personal attaché
It's a common term that Rubati and Sarva say.
Yes, so we loosely, very, very loosely based Akkadi off of real world Babylon, but with such a big twist that it hardly qualifies. In our fantasy version of Babylon or Akkadia, it is a female-dominated society, which in my opinion, would be more common in the fantasy world where there are access to power like gods and magic and priestly spells that are more easily obtained by women, sort of a leveling of the playing field, if you will. And in Akkadia, the society are priestesses of Ishtar, who is a female goddess, and the priestesses and a demigod of Ishtar named Sultani have taken over and control the culture in Akkadia. Men, males, are generally slaves or just the rank above. They're not allowed to be educated. They are used for warriors and physical labor, and women hold all the important positions in government and business, own land, and are also the generals of the military.
Eager to serve and bear witness to your ascension, Papa.
I want to give a nice shout out to the three actors who play sort of the central cast with Sarva, at least at the beginning. There'll be more characters that join her later. But Rubati is played by Megan Karimi Nasser. Balatu is performed by Jake Nzunza. And of course, Sarva, our lead for this story, is played by Yasmin Aker. And I think it's just an excellent ensemble. All three of these actors do a great job with these characters and really bring them to life.
What I like so much about this story is, we've all consumed a lot of high fantasy fiction in our lives. Can't find, I'm sure someone will correct me now that they'll see this, but I don't know if I've found a fantasy series that's based on like sort of the Babylonian mythos. I'm sure there's something out there, I'm just missing it, but it's nothing that's like, nothing comes to mind anyway. Well, yeah, we based the design, obviously you can look at this as off of Babylon.
The ziggurat, we have the gate of Ishtar, just blatantly lifted right out of history, but it's so freaking cool. How can you not?
The cool morning fog
Yes,
lifted
the other thing that
across
you'll
the
notice
Adkison
throughout here
River
too,
and passed
which is
beyond
something
the
Peter really
lapis
pushed at,
lazuli
which I think is
walls
great,
that mark
is
Eriku's inner
the
sanctum.
levels of colors
Nestled
that
behind these
all
secure
the
walls
characters
were
have
homes
in
and
their
palaces
costumes.
of Akkadia's elite noble class. And
back
beyond
in the
that,
Babylonian era,
the
you know,
Gates of
things that were
Ishtar,
colorful
which led
was
to
a sign of
towering
wealth.
ziggurat.
Only the wealthy people could afford to have
Sava's
something that was
destination,
blues and
the
reds.
home to a
Purples, I think, was
goddess.
the most glorious. If you had
Adkison
purple, I think it was like the most wealthy. Like Bill Gates has purple.
Sava and her retinue
We
passed
use
through
several
the
terms
glistening
from the
sapphire
Babylonian and
Gate of
Sumerian
Ishtar,
lexicons.
and
If
promptly
you'd like to learn more
proceeded to
about
the
terms
foot
like
of the
Patesi,
ziggurat
Nubanda,
monument,
Sakatu, and Ugala
Palace
Martu,
of
we
Akkad.
recommend checking out our website, worldofchaldea.com.
Along with other VIPs, she was
I just gotta
made
say,
to
I love
wait at the
ziggurats.
Patesi's land barge.
They just look awesome. And Steve, you did a great job on this one.
Might expect, such
You
as
know,
exotic
here's the thing.
flora,
It's funny.
animals, foods,
Humans
and
are
slaves
on Earth are
ready to
mundane
provide
people, and
any
you know
and
we
all
build these
comforts
crazy,
required.
elaborate things. It's just
Enduring
humans.
Akkadia's legendary
Now,
heat,
now let's go to a
rows
fantasy
of
setting where you actually
Lamassu-led
have gods
slaves
who have
stood
divine power,
shackled to
who
the
actually
barge,
have
awaiting the whipmaster's
Lamassu who
strike.
can pull an entire army behind it.
All
I mean,
remained
imagine things
silent
you could build.
until finally,
Yeah.
Especially if you could build in material, you can bring in materials
Patesi
from other
appeared.
worlds and whatnot, right?
and for a moment, sun pulsed. The Anumian's heat intensified.
It's
The
funny there it
Patesi
says
cast a blistering
sun
stare
pulse, doesn't
upon
say
all
the
those
sun
present, as
sun
she
is an Anumian
elegantly
spirit.
swept down
And
the
it's
stairs.
interesting that Iltani appears and an Anumian spirit in the sky apparently took notice. It's a little subtle thing there, but
When a god shows up,
All
it
bowed
affects
deeply,
the world.
eyes
It affects the
averted.
environment.
they have
Daring
spheres of
not to
influence,
gaze
and those
upon her
influence
divine
things,
presence.
not just people, but the
The
environment.
highest-ranking officer in
You know, we
the
make a big
Akkadian
deal,
military,
about the age of gods
Galamatu
having
Humusi,
arrived. It'd be kind of a
flanked
shame
by
if
Royal
Pradava was the only
Sakatu,
god
took guard
around. You know, you
position.
gotta have you gotta throw another one into the story once in a while.
Patesi
Yep,
Iltani
Iltani there,
Sava.
demigoddess,
Sarva.
daughter of Ishtar.
Welcome. We are so honored to be here, Pates.
Humusi here,
As you
played by
should,
Bahara
Sarva,
Golestani,
rising
and
star of Akkadia.
excellent job that she
And
did
so
for us on this
pretty.
role too.
Patesi
Very,
is a kind
uh,
and generous ruler.
she's a very physically
You should
powerful
be very
person in
grateful
real
to
life,
be in her
and
presence.
with a very deep,
so
commanding sort of
grateful.
voice, and
I will
she
remember this day for the rest
was
of
great
my
for this
life.
role.
She fit that role perfectly.
The Patesi
Yeah, her
mounted
armor's
the barge.
Beautiful. All the
Stood
armor
up to
these guys
follow,
designed
but was
for us. All the
immediately cut off by
Babylonian
Humusi.
style armor
You
is
ride with your
amazing.
surkat.
I love it all.
Let her
Cosplayers out there, you know, go for it.
Papa Sarva is a guest of honor, Humus.
Yeah,
I want her to see
a lot of
Adkison
the wardrobe is
eyes.
great on this whole section, but I
Sava
think
accepted
Humusi's is the best.
Patesi's hand, taking a position with her goddess.
I want to make a mention to the barge. I'm
On
proud.
board
I'm
the royal
I'm a little
barge,
proud of the
Royal
barge. I
passed
came up with this
unnoticed
idea,
while
and
Iltani enjoyed a
it just like
refreshing
it's like
drink and
I was
various
thinking of like a
exotic
parade
fruits.
vehicle in
All the
something like
while,
Carnival or something like that.
fanboys
Just like a
waved palm
big
fronds to
barge, and
cool
on
her.
it there's lawn
The Patesi's
chairs and
barge
somebody
slowly
serving
progressed along the
Iltani,
processional way,
drinks
amidst the
and
chatter
with
of its
umbrellas
occupants
and
the occasional
fanboys,
sounds
and
of whip
it's just like a
strikes
mini
upon
little garden on a
slaves.
barge just floating through the street.
All of Akkadia came out to get
Well,
a
was it
glimpse of the
is it
goddess.
a palanquin? Is that how you pronounce that?
Half-hearted waves and
Well, I think a
message.
palanquin or palanquin. No, I think
Yeah.
those are a lot smaller
Oh.
generally.
Well, certainly they are, but I'm saying that's what happens when you're mortal on Earth in the Middle Ages or wherever you are, right? It's like some wealthy person's being pulled around by maybe 4 people. It's like, no, I've got 800 men in front of this, this barge. Build it, but I'm taking everything with me.
To coax you into becoming
I love
a
it. I thought
leader,
it turned out
or
great.
perhaps even Ugalamartu, commander of my army.
But what about Humusi?
Humusi has served me well, but there is always room for
I
improvement.
find
It is very generous.
you know, I just
pronouncing all these
generous.
words. I'm sorry. I find pronouncing all the words at Akkadia very difficult. It doesn't come natural to me at all.
But that's also what gives
Feels
them
rather
sort of
underwhelming.
a unique aura. It
No,
helps
they
create
adore you,
an
Patesi.
atmosphere
They are
about
just
a
stunned
kingdom
by your beauty,
when
your
we
wisdom,
use
your
unique words from
power.
that culture.
Oh, I certainly agree. I'm just saying I can't pronounce it.
Sarva,
I see no love in their eyes.
direct.
So it's kind of interesting here.
Rare
There's some
qualities around
subtext.
here.
Um,
Sarva is right.
it's hard
They
to
have
speak
no
truth to
love for
power,
me.
right?
But who needs love
even
when I
your
command
boss.
their
Like,
respect?
I want to say something to my boss. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Or fear,
And
but
here's a Moosey is a kiss
Dear
ass,
Gunners,
and Sarva is willing
They
to
work
just
hand
lay it
in
out there
hand,
the way it is.
as I
But it's not like
foresee
you're just talking to your
I will
boss.
serve.
I mean, on Earth, it's like you're talking to another human. I mean, when you're talking to a god, like actually put yourself in the moment of like actually a divine being here who's immortal and can
Iltani
do
studied the vacant
miraculous things.
stairs around her.
Imagine the terror you must feel
And
to
those
like,
of her
I don't know if I
subjects
should
on the
really be
streets
saying
beyond.
this.
Is there a problem? that
Riding with
requires
them
my
on the
attention?
barge are some of the higher
I heard
ranking
something
council
about
women.
infrastructure crumbling.
So the
If that
entire
is not a cry
government
for
of
my
Arcadia
attention, I do not
is
know
ruled
what
by
is.
councilwomen, and some of them are there. And there's issues, underlining issues. This beautiful kingdom,
If we do not fix them, it is a near certainty that disease and
beyond
illness
sight.
will run rampant
You know,
by
it's like they're
summer's
having
end.
taxation issues,
Our
and
hands are tied.
some parts
The
of the city
budget
are
is
crumbling.
locked.
But there's huge
Then
palaces
raise
being built that are
taxes.
just glorious,
End
right,
of
to the
problem.
goddess.
Your
I don't know if you've heard this story
Holiness,
before or
we
not.
raised taxes 3 times this past year alone. Still, we
Nice little voiceover work
At
from
this
one of
point,
these
extracting
councilwomen
blood
by
from a
Jen
stone seems
Hammond,
more likely.
who was our
Enough of
dialect
these kings. They will
designer,
pay or they
who
will
helped me go
forfeit
through all
their
our kingdoms and
lives.
figure out what sort of accents we
shall be
wanted
done,
to
Your
use
Holiness.
for each kingdom,
Good.
and then
Now leave me.
helped coach
Today is
actors
not a
along
day
with
for
some
political squabbling.
other accent
Today
coaches in
is a
Seattle
day
area.
for
We
celebration.
got to work probably with every accent coach in Seattle. A lot of accent work in our voiceover recordings.
Which was great because I have zero ability to hear
Ziggurat
accents.
Palace like a spear
Accent.
thrust through the heart of Veracruz.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that in this whole segment
The
set
Akkadian
in an
Government
Arab
Assembly
culture,
building. The massive
only
public works
one
project had
or
just
only one of the
recently been
culture, only one of the
completed,
voices was
costing the lives of
naturally
some
Arab. Yasmin
12,000
Neighbor, she is
slaves.
from UAE,
A
and so
modest cost
so
for
she was
such a
our
glorious
lead. We
result.
decided, well, I think
All
for
in the
Arcadia,
name
I
of
think for
goddess
the
Iltani.
Babylonian
An
isn't
explosion of
quite the same.
protests
It's
and
certainly
insults
not
shook the heavens,
Arabism.
enveloping the land
Using an
barges
Arab
that approached
accent
the
for
entrance of
Babylon
the
is a
pool.
bit of a jump, but it
Iltani
works
met
really well,
anger with
and
anger.
it was yeah, worked out great.
She
The
also
bellicose roar of her
she
lion
also let us know when she
reverberated,
read the script. She was like,
silencing the
"Oh,
crowd.
we wouldn't speak this way.
Sakatu
We would
pushed
speak
back
this way."
the
I'm like, "Oh,
masses.
thanks for letting us know." And we went and modified all of our scripts.
The entrance
So she
swung
actually helped
wide
improve
open.
the story overall, the flow
Iltani's
of the
barge
dialogue.
rolled in and was greeted by an
I
eruption
just
of
like this idea. I
applause,
remember I was writing the
triumphant
script, and I was
fanfare
thinking
from the
of
General
her being on
Assembly.
this barge, and then like, well, what happens when she gets to the Puru?
Puru's
I think,
cavernous innards
what if she just
displayed
drives
wealth
the
and
barge just
vanity
like
on a
right into the
grand
middle
scale.
of the whole
All
stadium.
for the
It just never
glory
gets
of
off of it,
Iltani.
right?
A colossal marble statue stood
Yes,
guard,
that's exactly. And of
representing
course,
the duality
that's
of
exactly what we built.
Petesi's sphere of
Assembly building. It was a
power.
lot of fun. Our
Battle
concept illustrator, by the way,
and fertility.
completely built this entire
The museum-like
entire
complex contained a
room.
menagerie of
Even
sculptures in action
our
poses.
production studio would sometimes go into build a set in 3D, and they're like, "We built this in 3D. Here you go." And then they would just illustrate over whatever angle they needed it to be on, which was a lot of development went behind some of these scenes. If we ever go back, those scenes are built in 3D.
Some depicted
So here,
Iltani
we're
reenacting
learning
historical
more that
battles.
Iltani is a
Others
demigod,
favoring
and her
Kama
sphere of
Sutra
influence is duality here of battle and fertility, which I believe falls in line
Sakatu closed
fairly
ranks
closely
as
with her
the
mother,
slaves
Ishtar.
slowly brought the
Yes,
barge to
that's
rest
my understanding
before
as
the
well.
council members.
I mean, according to the Dungeons and Dragons, Deities and
Assembly
Demigod,
required
that's
a sovereign
a
monarch
book
before
which was
Iltani.
our sacred tome of everything worth knowing about the
Petesian
gods worth
sheathed
knowing
the golden
was
blade
in that book.
and held it
Yeah,
out
okay,
for all to
maybe
admire.
they didn't get everything right, but
Council women
that's
of
that's what we
Arcadia,
grew up on.
we have gathered to honor one of our own.
I
She has
remember
demonstrated a
first time
warrior's
I heard
strength,
this bit on
fortitude,
the
and cunning
sound
in all
design.
aspects of
I was
life.
just so
Be it on the
excited.
battlefield, home front, or
You see
negotiations.
stuff, you hear stuff in
I
films
speak
all the
to you,
time,
of
and you just
course,
kind of take it for
of
granted. At least
Sarva,
I do. I never thought
daughter
much about
of
filmmaking until I went to
Arishti.
film school. And then I'm making a film, and you have this idea of like, oh, this person's in a big
Sarva, who will
auditorium,
soon play a
and
most
that
important
voice is going
role
to
in
sound
my inner
different. How do we
circle,
do
to
that?
defend
You know,
and
and you
serve
kind of
me,
say that out
now
loud
and
with your sound design
forevermore.
people at Bad Animals, who are like
It
these
is with
amazing sound
tremendous
designers.
pride
And
I
they're like,
give to
oh yeah,
thee
that's easy. Don't worry about it.
Sharur!
So Sharur is actually out of Babylonian mythos is an actual artifact, divine weapon.
Sharur, smasher
Although
of
people will notice that
thousands,
out of
no stranger to
mythology
demon,
that
to
it's a hammer,
serpent,
it's a
to
smasher of
dragon.
thousands.
A blade that has served
Which
me
is
well,
artifacts
as I
can
am
change
sure it will
shapes
serve
and have
you.
special abilities. So
Sarva, daughter
you know, who
of
knows?
Ereshkigal,
But yeah,
do
this was
you, for
pulled
gods
from
and
that's a
glory,
Babylonian artifact
accept
right there.
this most precious gift.
I do accept, Your Holiness.
For Iltani!
Yes! 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 For me!
The room suddenly fell silent.
Time to die, you petty.
Sarva swiftly drove Sharur through Iltani.
I said, this is gonna work, ain't it?
Into shrieks, gasps,
Just gonna
and
stab you in the
howls of
back. It's
horror.
gonna, and we can all go home.
Iltani collapsed and slowly
Yeah,
slipped off the air.
Sarva unfortunately did not have the opportunity to read the Primal Order, or she would have known that it takes a little bit more sometimes to
Shala,
kill a god
daughter
than
of
stabbing them
Ahatsuna, the
in the
rightful
heart. You know?
Patesi of Acadia.
Shala, a daughter of a
And you know, getting all these talented sound design people, musicians and actors and everybody, and they just love it. They come in like, oh my god, this is so much better than doing, you know, I don't know, a Dial soap commercial that we're used to
Irishti
doing,
hid
you
me
know.
in plain sight as Sarva, and raised me as her own.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. And you're right.
Glorious
It's every time we
reign
get the sound design,
ends
I can't
now.
wait. I just put everything aside and can't wait to listen to it.
Live Shala!
Yeah, there is it's Seattle. We've worked with a lot of the acting community here in Seattle and professional community for filmmaking in Seattle because yeah, most of it up here. Not a lot of narrative films get made in Seattle. It's mostly advertisements for Amazon and Microsoft
Remarkably, Iltani
and
clung to
Boeing
life.
and stuff. So
gasped.
you know, so when something like Chaldea comes along, there's no shortage of people wanting to work, willing to work with us, even though our rates are lower. And it's like, I remember having a conversation once with a DP, and saying, you know, I can only pay you this much. And he's like, that's okay. I mean, this is the type of stuff I want to make. I'll get really good money for shooting commercials, but then I get to come and do this, and it's just so much more fun than the commercial work.
She's losing strength.
Sakatu soon joined in, and little by
The thing
little,
about
they exhausted
primal
Iltani's
energy and
primal
being
shield.
their true form is just their primal essence. Gods can put that primal essence into any physical form they want. So I mean, you can really hack on a physical form all you want. Maybe you even feel like you ran their blade through her heart, but that's really not the deity. That just happens to be the clothing they're wearing, their meat suit, if you will. So
We shall
I
rebuild
wonder, how did she survive this?
Acadia.
Well,
Bring it back to its rightful place.
a god's
in
bodies can take a lot
Chaldea.
of damage,
But to kill
but
a god,
it takes a lot
even a
more to actually
demigoddess, was
destroy
a
their
near
primal
impossible
essence.
feat. And for Sarva,
Maybe we'll explore some of this later on in the series. What do you think, Peter?
I think we will.
Oh, yes.
Another quick shout out to Stephanie Bates, who did the voiceover for Iltani, and just also did a fantastic job.
But kill a god. Oh, Sarva. Poor Sarva.
Oh, here it comes. The primal blast.
let loose
Wrath of the
primal
gods.
fury,
Direct attack with your soul.
blasting souls from
It's,
mortal flesh.
look in the primal order stats. It's
A
like
primal
nothing in the
detonation
universe can
sent
stop a primal
bodies
blast.
careening
Except a
off the
primal
barge.
shield. It's like the immovable object and the immovable
Sarva
shield.
landed with a thud.
You know, it's funny. A couple people, when they were
Taken
seeing this
from
art, they're like,
Hosea.
"Oh, she's the blue skin girl."
The
You know, they're talking about
Patesi of
Iltani. Well,
Acadia,
she's not really blue skin.
demigoddess,
That's her
revered
primal
daughter
shield
of
that's wrapped
Ishtar,
tight around her.
and
And
concubine
the interesting
of
thing about
Emperor
primal shields
Kadava,
is that it's not like
rose
a sphere, a hard sphere around her. She can control it and put it around
Energy
anything she
and
wants,
restore.
right? Based
When
on
you
how
are
she.
gone, Sarva,
And so
ashes
the clever
that
person will
no
take a
one
primal
will
shield and they'll
ever
stick it on the inside of their armor, skin tight. so that like blades and whatnot will impact the armor. That'll stop a lot of damage. Anything that gets through the armor then is then stopped by the primal shield. Tricksy deity trick.
Yeah, we had a chance to playtest a lot of these rules for gods. We played a lot of high-level D&D back in the 80s. I affectionately mentioned the Deities and Demigods book by TSR. That was basically the monster manual for us.
Yes. And the other thing cool is that gods can control the way primal looks based upon their personality. Doesn't have to be blue. Just she's Akkadian, and blue is the sign of brilliance and wealth, and so it's blue, right? Later on in our series, we'll run into a demon who has a primal shield, and it's just utter darkness, right? Because, well, you know, he's from the abyss, and it's just dark. You can't even see that way. So as we go through the series of introduce different gods and divine level creatures, they'll all use primal energy in a different way. Babylonian happens like blue.
Sarva is really smart, as I talked about earlier, and she's a brilliant tactician, generals, and excellent fighter. But she can be
capable of killing Iltani. Nothing.
And is not always disciplined, and that's a character flaw, if you will, that she will have to that will haunt her more than once.
Ah, it's not a flaw. She's taking action where other people just sit around on their. I'm taking steps, moving forward. Better to ask for forgiveness and permission.
So together,
it's her philosophy.
They fled
Yeah.
across the great.
Yeah, well, you know, there's some wisdom that comes in time that can be valuable.
May the gods guide
Yeah,
us.
I don't. You know, I'd hate to be chased by the authorities, or let's say being chased by the mafia, but being chased by a god, that's a whole nother level of problems. I really love this piece of art here, this intro to Ogstad,
the kingdom of Hesse,
the docks. It's a beautiful piece of art.
Erishti,
Agreed. It's a gorgeous piece of art.
Of Arcadia. Each evening she left
with this story, I took on perhaps something of a dangerous sort of idea, which is to explore sexism by reversing the gender of which way it's heading. You know, it's the Akkadians are certainly what you would call a sexist society. Only it's women who are dominating over men. I suspect I'll get accused of saying, oh, when women are in charge, they're just as bad. No, I think it's people. I think it's humans that are bad to each other. And I wanted this story is a very personal story for me because I feel like Sarva's journey, her story arc is very similar to my own. I was raised in a pretty traditional white background in Idaho, and had to learn over time sort of the values that I hold dear now. And this will be something that Sarva has to face also, coming from a sexist society. And then, as you'll see in the story, she eventually ends up running around with a bunch of white men who are also sexist, but obviously the different direction. And so this is going to be something of a story arc for her, and I hope I do the topic justice.
So what's fun about this is the clash of cultures, where the Akkadians meet sort of medieval English knights.
Farewell to the day's events, allowing long
Sarva thinks that women should be in charge, and the knights think that the women should be, you know, in the kitchen or whatever.
Right.
With her bread.
Yeah, so a sensitive topic, but I hope that we address it in a good way, and maybe it will help show how bad sexism is if you kind of show it in a different way. That's my hope.
You lay a hand on me, and Iltani herself will strike you down.
Can you slice a piece for me, Mother?
Here we are back in Ogstad again, where we originally introduced the city with in the Yo chapter. Now Sarva is in town. Oh, look at that. Sarva's in the same town as Yo. I wonder what's going to happen there.
Actually, not much, at least for a while.
Well, that's true. Eventually, all the characters come to town eventually.
Now look at you.
Spoiler alert.
On track for your own command.
I think everybody knows it's the
Not for
structure
this
of these
career
episodic
hiccup.
things with a
That's
multi-cast,
quite
multi-lead characters. Somehow they're
News
all going
travels
to
fast,
get
I see.
connected somehow,
A
and
mixture
that's part of the
of
fun is
truths
figuring
and
out. I
propaganda.
hope it will be
But I
fun
think
for
I know the
viewers
real story.
to figure out what is going to be the connection of these
It was the
characters
perfect
and how will
moment.
they meet
I
and
won
how will they
Iltani's
feel about
trust,
each
her
other.
confidence.
And
Avenging
yeah.
your family.
I enjoyed that with
I
Game of Thrones.
understand.
You know, in Game of
But
Thrones, it was
maybe
always like,
this
I mean, it
was
starts with someone together with the two
rash.
families,
She
the
bestowed
Baratheons and
Sharu to me. I saw the chance and I
other
took
guys.
it.
And
Sunk the blade deep through the
The Senate houses.
yeah, right. Winterfell, you know, drawing a blank on the house.
That's
Anyway,
what Iltani said after she awoke from the dead.
It is a powerful sword. Really, very dangerous. But it is not the sword.
I know that now. Iltani must have offered it to test my loyalty.
so
I am proud to say that I
Rubati is,
Your defeat
I looked and looked. I
serve
could
as a
not
stark
find
warning to
a
others within
Babylonian
which to
term
overthrow
that
her.
was
No
equivalent
one
to
dares
squire.
attempt it now.
So
must be a
hopefully
way to
we
destroy
sort of leave that
have
impression
heard
that
rumors
she's like a squire
of a
without ever
special
using the word
blade.
squire.
But that is all.
But that was what I
What were
had
you
in mind
thinking
for
coming here?
Rubati,
I'm
that
here
she
to get
is
you out of
herself
Augusta before
a noble
Iltani-
woman
What?
from a noble
Kills
family,
me?
younger
If
than
I thought
Sarva,
that were to be the case,
assigned
I would have
to
left town
Sarva
days ago.
in much the
Truth of
same
the
way
matter
that
is,
a
Iltani needs
a
me alive
page
to
might be
lure
assigned
you
to a
here.
knight to
I have no
eventually
choice but to
earn their
stay,
right
but
to knightdom.
you
I
have a
don't
choice.
know if
And
such a
I
tradition
choose
existed
to
in
take you
Babylon,
with
but
us.
it
We
fit
may
our
not share the
story,
same
so we
blood,
went with it.
but
Yeah,
you are my
the
mother.
interesting thing is
My
I'm working on
family.
the website, and we have a Chaldeapedia where we have information about all of our characters, and I just worked on all the Akkadian characters, and Rubati was one of them. There's a section in like your stat block, and it says title, and I wrote down Squire because, again, I know you made the comment. I don't know if it's a squire or not, but it's equivalent to a squire. So I don't know if Squire will survive ultimately when we launch our site, but currently underneath her it says Squire.
Were they men or
I doubt it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have
Knight,
words about that.
demons, ghosts?
I put it in there as a placeholder, so well, for you and I, we'll need to fix that.
Surrounded and outflanked, Sarva drew her blade.
You step 1 foot closer. You will want to protect what is important to you.
Then, a deep, familiar voice broke the tension.
I only got one thing that's important to me, Papa.
That little thing. Hardly worth saving. This is all the Serkatu who remain?
The others were killed or captured.
Your loyalty is to be commended, Nubanda.
You are our Papa. Our loyalty is without measure until death.
Armed Akkadians marching through Orgstadt's streets would not go unnoticed. Erishti hurriedly led them to her nearby home. Erishti, Sarva, and company rushed past the upscale homes of wealthy merchants.
So,
and
as we've
minor
pointed out
nobles.
before, every kingdom has its
At the end of
own
a large cul-de-sac, a lavish
what do we call it,
estate loomed, surrounded
militia.
by
No,
wide
the
provincial
local
lawns
the
and
local
lush
kingdoms
gardens.
have their own armies,
Erishti's
which
ambassadorial
support
home.
the imperial legions. Of all those,
Erishti
probably the
directed
toughest
everyone to the rear of
is
her estate
Akkadia.
to avoid prying
Am I right,
eyes.
Peter?
The athletic Akkadians quickly leapt the fence.
I think
landing
I think Akkadians. I think there's several really good units around the world.
These
You know,
are not
I don't.
exactly
I would hesitate to
luxury
say.
I seem to. Oh, sorry,
This
I
will be
talked
more
over
than
you.
satisfactory.
No, that's okay.
I can set you up in the house.
I mean, I think that you've got really tough units.
stay as a group.
Certainly, if you ask the
Just in
Akkadians, they
case.
would definitely agree that the Kuru
Then get some
bodyguard
rest.
is, the toughest out there.
Erishti loved her horses.
But you know, the elves might have a
longed
different
for the
opinion as
day
to
when she
who
could
the toughest
finally
military
leave
are, and
politics
certainly the
and
dwarves would
retire
have a
to the
different
tranquil
opinion.
life of a country.
And then you know, if you get
farming
into the
aside,
Tashamau charioteers,
was
they're going to have an
relieved
opinion.
to finally
Ardean
place to
cavalry
rest
are going to
all
have an
their weary
opinion.
heads.
Maybe
And the
what,
Perrin Knights.
yes, and the knights and knights of Hesse,
The next morning,
Garnon Forest Rangers.
At some point, maybe we'll see all these guys in action.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be a miniatures game where we can test the relative strengths of these various militaries of Chaldea.
Yeah, in Vigi, isn't that what it is?
Yeah, in Vigi.
Is this an elaborate in Vigi
Inside Arishti's kitchen,
simulation?
the cook presented a feast fit for a noble. After a time, with their appetite sated, the conversation naturally shifted to the elephant in the room.
Where will you go next?
You mean, where will we go next?
Did we not cover this already? I am staying put.
Why?
My days of adventure are long past. And what use would I be? A woman of my vintage would only slow you down.
Nonsense. We'll find you the fastest horse. I will make sure of it. And you still move quite well for someone of your... Well, you said it, not me.
And if I was injured, what then?
My Sirkatu will carry you. Over the hills, through the mountain passes, across the desert. It makes no difference.
And I ask again, what is your plan? A quick sword and mind will only get you so far.
Always thought I would.
Yes, so here we have Sarva thinking that she might be able to join the Imperial Legion, but you know, just as if there wasn't already enough sexism to go around, the Imperial Legion is all men.
Only.
But yes, but as Rubati points out, she would look good in a Roman, a Roman outfit.
But if you have not noticed, you are not in Arcadia anymore. You are wanted criminals on the run. And with Iltani engaged to Emperor Cordava, your pretty face probably adorns every tavern wall from here to Saratov. The longer you stay, the greater the danger.
Then come with us. Please, I beg of you.
I will not leave. You must go, now. I'm sorry. I should not have raised my voice.
Don't you understand? I implicated you in front of Iltani. Nothing will stop her from killing you. Rubati, gather my Sirkatu. We leave at once.
Yes, Papa.
Sarva, please.
I just want to know. Do you regret taking me in, being my mother?
Oh, Sarva, my sweet, defiant child. Not for one moment. You are the joy of my life. Damn, you're good. It is settled. I'm going with you. Plan or no plan. Damn the consequences.
Excellent.
What should I take?
None of your fancy outfits. We'll be going through God knows what.
I know it is not a vacation. I am talking about weapons.
That's always fun, you know. The closet full of weapons. So Arishti trained, raised Shala as Sarva, and also taught her animal speak and taught her how to fight.
Shattered glass sprayed. Murderous cutthroats burst through.
Yeah, Humusi is hardly incognito in that outfit, is she? She's like, oh, let's do this really super beautiful Akkadian outfit. We're just gonna throw a black cloak over it. I'm sure nobody
inside.
Harboring murderous enemies.
Well, she was in a hurry. She was like, you know what? I'm just going straight for her. I'm not waiting. You know, we would have filmed the scene leading up to it. She's like, screw it. I'm not going into disguise.
Yeah, I mean, Iltani probably busted in and said, get your ass to Ogstadt now, and hit her with a primal teleportation right then on the spot, and she had to go grab a black cloak somewhere.
Intend to ladle me to death.
Weapons plunged. Blood sprayed.
Batesti grants eternal life to the one who kills Sarva.
Yeah.
Go quickly.
I think that's a pretty good bounty, right? Like if you're a demigoddess and you want somebody killed, you put out a bounty. How about eternal life? How would that work as motivation?
Caught by surprise, Sarva, Rubati, and Arishti were still more than the assassins could handle. There would be no eternal life for these men. Assassins lay dead and dying. Humusi and Rubati faced off. Butter churn versus mace. Outside came the quick clatter of hooves and many men with weapons.
We were talking about the local military, the Hex. Here are a bunch of Hex modeled after medieval Germanic soldiers. I think a nice job with the style of the armor and the helmets and is that the Ogstadt boar or something on the back on the shields there, Steve?
Bowl. Yeah, it's a bowl.
Frightened glances. All three women were injured. Sava gathered Arishti close.
Hold, while I get this out of you.
No.
So, Disney established a long time ago that you have to kill off the parent before you can go on your adventure. Right? So this is the Chaldea version of Sarva's mother being killed. So I'm joking, of course, but it's yeah, her mother. This is her mother, and now she's perished. So
I've let you down.
Yeah.
Well, it's the death of the mentor, right? In the hero's journey.
Check the assassins for the antidote.
You see this idea. That's the hardest part for me as a story maker with Steve is, I fall in love with these characters, and then it's like I don't want to kill the character, but it's unfortunately a pretty necessary part of telling tales.
No!
Arishti's head rolled, and just like that, she was gone.
Papa, you must take the antidote too.
The Hex stormed the home.
Shava of Arcadia.
Sometime later, Sava, Rubati, and her Circatu were dragged in rough irons to Gunterbrink, the infamous Hessen military prison. Deep into its bowels they plunged, until finally all were shoved into a cramped windowless cell to begin the arduous process of withering death. Low moans haunted the dungeon. Protests and shrieks not entirely human echoed. The Arcadians were not alone. Then, from out of the shadows, another resident emerged from inside their very cell.
So, all the medieval prisons in the world always have to have rats, right?
Watch out!
In Chaldea, there's rats, and then on top of it, we put the dire
the men
template
played
on top
kick
of
the bugger with the primeval blow.
Gotta have the dire rat.
Do not.
I love this scene so much, especially when the actor's like, "Watch out, dire rat!"
They cannot keep all of
It's
us
so
in the
geeky.
cell together, can they?
Yeah, I love it. Steve and I are big fans of third edition.
We're in a
D&D.
fucking prison, you ignorant turd.
As their stay
I think there's
dragged
another
on,
D&D
sadness
reference coming
turned
up.
into despair. And finally, a creeping
So this is
dread.
our first introduction to Ubar. He's the most junior of the Circatu.
Sava forced back tears,
So out of all
refusing to
her
show
males,
weakness in front of the males.
he's the youngest,
she couldn't
and
deny the facts.
Blathu takes him under his
Rishti
wing.
was dead.
And so
It was
he's
her fault.
he's really the fish out of water
Now
character in that he doesn't know
everyone she
anything,
knew,
and he
rotting in a
everything to
prison.
him is new.
Rubati offered
Performed
Sava
by
a
Amir
canteen.
Kamali.
They let me keep it. Sorry, it's just water.
I'm not thirsty.
Erishti was a great woman. A great Akkadian.
Raised me, protected me, and taught me everything I know.
Including animal speak?
Yes. She also trained me to control and channel my emotions. We can see how well that turned out.
Papa, what do you think they intend to do with us?
I do not know.
Kill us?
I do not know.
The soft scuttle of boots, the rattle of keys, followed by a voice and the sharp scrape of metal. The cell door swung wide open.
You, come with me.
Where are you taking her?
None of your fucking business.
Sava was dragged at harsh sword point to the outside world and blinding light beyond. In the courtyard, a dwarven military officer waited patiently in an open-air carriage.
Get in. I am Grand Master Cain Currig, commander of the Hex.
So this is Grandmaster Kane Kurg, who's the highest ranking Heck officer, the highest ranking officer of all the knights, who happens to be a dwarf, very old dwarf.
Sit down, you.
Yes,
fool.
it struck me a while back that if you had a race like dwarves or elves that could live for hundreds of years, that whether it was military or professionals or whatever, that these would have a lot of credibility if there was a interracial military unit, say of like the Hex, which has a component of dwarven host.
Later, as they
and it would be tough for anybody to go up against the credibility that a dwarf warrior that's maybe 200 or 300 years old would have. Right.
Enchantments gone.
So this is the home of the 10th Legion, the Castrum, as the Romans called their legion homes or fortresses.
The great fortresses,
only this
dating back to before the
modest little fort was built 1,000 years ago by the dwarves during the Clawhammer War, and managed to survive that war miraculously. And yeah, it makes I think any legion would be proud to be based here.
Icon of Emperor Cordava's power.
The dwarves are very proud because this is the one of the few fortresses that didn't get knocked down in the Clawhammer War.
The giant swamp demon bent down.
King Kurg was just going to mention that. He's like, wow, the dragons didn't knock it down. So they sure tried. And he's proud that it's still standing. And here, coming up, we're going to see Drazeldar, which Emperor Cordava assigned 2 Drazeldar to every legion.
And if I had not?
And so the 10th Legion has 2.
Me alongside
one of them here is at the front gates of Enchantment's Guard.
Governor Gustavus
he scrutinizes everybody who comes through the front gate. So speaking of this fortress, because it's a major set piece and we will be here a lot through many, many chapters.
A little while later.
When we develop this, we do create a 3D model of this as well. It's it's gray, gray shaded, not full color, but that way when wherever come here, we could we can rotate the camera and go, oh, we're gonna take a shot of the fortress from this angle. So it's a lot of development went into this particular.
Sava waited patiently inside the governor's posh
So
office,
here we meet Governor Gustavus. We will see a lot of him. I believe he shows up in more of our chapters than any other character. Is that right, Steve?
Reading.
Well, certainly in season 1, I was looking the other day. I'm like, wow,
the study of war through the use of
he's more prominent than anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, not always the major star, but he's in a lot of scenes and he knows a lot of people. Which makes sense.
A grizzled
and his son Reiswitz is one of our lead characters, but Helvig is like a war hero. He's the governor of an entire continent.
Papa Sarva, Governor, as you ordered.
Governor, I am honored.
Heavy reading, trust me.
I much prefer 3.5. The simplification of skirmish formations was long overdue. And the introduction of border defenses allows a woman, I should say a commander.
Guilty as charged. Couldn't help it.
You
just, it's so good.
Of course.
The astute, we will leave it as an exercise for the viewer. If you want to hit pause and take a close look at some of the book titles, you might find some fun homages to real-world topics.
Queen Iltani sent a diplomatic dispatch demanding I return you to Arcadia.
So we are gamers.
I shouldn't acquiesce to her wishes.
And when we get to chapter 3, so we'll talk more about the origin of that chapter, wanting to basically write a story around the idea of a miniatures game.
I was
and in Viggy is
victims were
identified
as
I believe Viking.
Tit for tat,
or at least Scandinavian
you did try to
lore,
assassinate
which means a
or
word for a duel.
Patessi.
And so we grabbed that word and trademarked it. And who knows? Maybe there'll be a game someday.
To take the crown.
If there is, we've got the word for it at least. And so We like the idea that there is wargaming within Chaldea, and that wargame is called Invigi, and it's going to play a big part of the Ricewitz story on a recurring basis.
If you return me to Arcadia,
she'll kill you. But what would you have me do?
I understand women are not permitted in the Imperial Legions, but what about the Hex?
You, in the Hex?
I am a papa in the Qurbuti Guard. You've never heard of the Qurbuti Guard?
I have, but why should I be impressed by guards commanded by women?
A little respect, Kurik. The expertise.
This is an example here of him,
of
his
legions.
knowledge of Arcadia.
By tomorrow,
Show some respect.
Patrol,
He's like,
Emperor Kodava
I've seen these
will
guys,
back her demands
I should say
to
women,
extradite you. Simply
firsthand and what they can do,
this mess.
which we'll learn later on.
Then I am done.
Yes, we will learn more about the Qurbuti Guard in chapter 3, and I think Kane. I never saw Kane Kurig's comment as ignorant so much as just straight up racist. I really enjoyed working on this script with Steve and Steve-O. The idea of how of coming up with an Invigi play, having him ask her a question that's sort of like a tactical question of this game, to see if she could come up with a smart answer, and that being something that turned him to. I mean, he wants to help her because he has history with Akkadians, but he needs to be sure that it's a good idea and that it's going to be worth the risk. And then we had a long discussion about how to do this asylum thing, like, the idea was like, well, if he offers her asylum before he gets the order from Kodava to extradite her back to Arcadia, then he could say, but I've already offered her asylum, and it will at least give him the chance to tie this whole thing up in red tape and buy a few months, and then maybe he'll get another idea. Of course,
but what of my
the opportunity does present itself.
They're still your males. They will have a place here in Enchantment's Guard. Well,
what we'll learn is that Helvig has a somewhat colorful history with Arcadia himself. When he was a young military officer, he fought in a famous battle called the Battle of Arcadia. So
you are royalty.
He knows quite a bit about Arcadia and its politics and how the whole thing works. So it's not by accident that Sarva happens to be in his office at this moment.
Save her from a storm of her own making. She was saved. Iltani's wrath would be unrelenting and swift. But for the moment, at least, Sarva, Rubati, and her Serkatu were safe.
Well, that's our discussion of Chapter 102, our director's commentary. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned. We will have commentaries like this for each of our chapters.
Sin, vigor, and soldiers. You're here at last.
Better not be a goddamn surprise party.